Food is a great equalizer, right? Juneteenth has a bunch of foods that are representative of that day. And so how can we celebrate that freedom, acknowledge the sacrifice of our ancestors, and then make that American connection, because it's an American holiday, it's not a Black holiday, creating food that's also American food, creating that synergy that just made so much sense. Let's redefine what the watermelon means today, because it was taken from us, right? The watermelon is like a prosperity meal. Corn represents gold, and black eyed peas represents good fortune. And so the watermelon is a prosperity meal. Enslaved folks, as soon as this horrific shadow slavery was over, they used the watermelon to gain a lot of capital. So much so that white Southerners were destroying Black American watermelon crops, and Birth of a Nation kind of sealed the deal, with that scene where these Black politicians are eating watermelon in this exaggerated, very disrespectful manner. And from that point on, that sort of like derogatory stereotype grew from that movie, which was profound in the sense of creating these horrible stereotypes for Black people. And so that's really the origin of how that has been so popular in folks associating a negative connotation with watermelon. And so we have to take that back. Early African-American cuisine was heavily vegetarian, very small amounts of meat, because you would have to hunt your own food. So this misnomer, right? Like people always like, Black people eat the scraps of the enslaver. And it's like, what? And it's like, where did you get that from? Like, that didn't happen. The enslavers were capitalists. It's like, I'm not gonna spend any more money than I don't have to. You can go out there and hunt rabbit, boar, possum, squirrel, chicken, and chicken was very hard to come by back then. Those types of proteins were used by enslaved people. And you're like, well, how did this happen? How did your food get so unhealthy? Well, throughout these celebrations, people don't realize cooking for the enslaver, their demand, the European demand for butters and fats and sugars permeated, that's what they wanted. And so when you were released from that bondage, you associated these cuisines that you were making for your enslaver as, that's desirable. So now we're going to include that in what we're eating, because when we were slaves, we couldn't get this stuff, and so now, and of course, it tastes good. Giving respect back to our food, giving respect back to our culture, not making it performative, not making it something that is outside of the spectrum of culinary sophistication, that is important to us.